Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we'll be looking at my model train layout. This video will be broken into three parts. My first attempts, my layout as it is now, and then other little layouts and dioramas. Now, like most people, I started in the hobby with just old grandpa's train in the basement on the floor, either at grandparents' house, great-grandparents' house, whatever. There's pretty much trains everywhere I was, and it was a big part of my life growing up. You know, yeah, we had just lots of fun with those little trains around on the floor and whatnot. So next here we see, my first attempt at what I thought would be my train layout table or whatever. It's a simple little dog bone on the floor with a small yard and maybe one or two industries, but nothing much. And then here's just a bunch of small iterations and pictures of the design process, I guess. Now here we see what my layout, well, once I got my first table, it was a simple 4 by 9 foot thing. I, of course, went with the simple generic design that everyone went for of a roundhouse turntable and a little yard. Which, yeah, at the time I didn't watch much YouTube or anything, but as I later learned, that's like the one thing people tell you not to do. But there's a simple picture of it, and then bang, I changed it all up. Now this layout was a combination of a simple oval and then uh, I guess folded over dog bone uh, on top, which would allow me to run two different trains and whatnot. It was simple, but at the time I enjoyed it quite a lot. We quickly grew our collection and built out this layout. As you can see here, if you look at the main street, as I call it, there's a small little oiling facility in the middle right there. Now that structure, I actually struggled for like 4 years trying to find a spot for it, but it wasn't until about this year that I actually ended up finding one. Now the layout is about 5 years old at this point, and yeah, as I said, it's simple oval around the base and got 18-inch radius on the inside, 20 and 22 elsewhere. And most of it was Bachmann Easy Track and Flex Track that I've inherited. Now, as for wiring, I ended up doing it every like 3 or 4 pieces, and around 2018, 2019, I ended up adding some toggle switches in preparation for getting my first DCC system. And now I ended up getting that DCC system with Bachmann Transcontinental train set. What I was able to do was just simply plug that in, and because of my toggle switches, I was able to quickly switch from DC or DCC for my layout. And it's simple, but it worked and it's effective, and I still use it to this day. Now, yeah, here we see Main Street, and I ended up getting an engine shed and plopping it there. And this was the upper portion of the layout. Nothing much, but then I started trying to do some tinkering and terraforming and adding some grass sheet around. You can see an engine with some more of that terraforming, I guess, scenery work. Just had a bunch of foam trees at the time, and thought it looked pretty good. Yeah, of course, I had this pegboard on the wall that I would always constantly fill up with new shelves. But then I decided to tear it all up. Why? Well, because as you can see in the top left, there was a bridge or where the trains cross over, and that had too low of clearance. So I had to take about an inch down, and I at a 2% grade, made this simple incline and patched it all back up, and works good. And you can see this is the main overview of the layout. And it was like this way for about a year or so. I think as you can see coming up, there's, well, yeah, here's a quick demonstration of some trains running, and you can see that upper dog bone and then the simple oval around the base. It's quite fun. It has a few industries that can switch out. Overall works quite nice. Some more shelving for trains. Yep, lots of that, and this was back in July of 2021. And here's just a bunch more photos of the layout. Now about that oil facility, I ended up having it in this corner of the layout that had nothing done with it. I was planning on putting a river, but just ended up putting it right there, and I thought it came out quite nice for then. And then continuing just doing some small projects and extensions to the station here so I can have double side platform. And of course I got some actual trees and made a small little planter box in front of the station, and that turned out fun. Yeah. More pictures here, and then the next picture I got a fire station, which I managed to just cram into downtown. It looked quite nice. And then the next project was around December, November of 21. I added these little, I decided to paint some roads onto my layout with some acrylic paint, masking tape, and that ended up becoming a fun project. It took about a day or so for me. Ended up bringing a nice light to the layout, and I guess here you can see an overview of the whole thing with that. Helps to hide the foam. And in February, I did a video about all of my model trains up to that point, which was about 300 or so. And then, as you can see here, I decided to tear it all up again and redo it. Because instead of that grass sheet, I did some plaster cloth, and I'm planning to do some sculpt and mold. And it turned out quite nice. I had to redo some sections. And then, yeah, still have the foam trees in some spots. I've pretty much gotten rid of all those at this point. But yeah, it was a fun project. And then here we are in the upper portion of the layout, where I was trying to integrate an old scene that I had made like 7 years prior or something. And that turned out to be fun. And here we see some more plaster cloth. And yeah, because of the foam, it was pretty nice. But here you can see I completely decided to demolish it again, because like a year or two back I got this turntable, and what better way than to shove it under there. There was enough space that it would work, and it would just be a nice place to store some stuff, and turned out pretty nice. And you can see it immediately filled up with more trains. Here we are back on the upper portion of the layout, just experimenting with some more scenery and all this stuff. The roads are getting pretty dusty at this point. Yeah. Just a few more pictures, and some. Of course, there was always still incidents and problems to be had, but yeah, what can you do? Yeah. Here we see. Now I actually have about, I think, 9 tracks in this photo that I could just line my trains up. Yeah, so my room stayed this way for a little bit, and then I had to put my bed back in the room, so changed a little bit there. But here's some more photos that I'll just let go. And this picture here is a little out of scale. Instead of being 2 inches, it should be about a foot. You always just like to draw on Sundays or whenever I had free time, and just sketch some little quick designs of layout and some possible changes. Of course, always evolving and trying to be a little better at my drawing. A lot of these little things were a few years old, and of course improved. And then, well, I ripped it up again. This time to just continue redoing it and making it better. But of course, I like to do multiple projects at once, and so I was like, why not drill some more holes in the layout? And so I started wiring up some lights, and overall that turned out very nice. And then I decided, why not add a little yard? So I ripped up some more track, installed some switches, and made myself a little fiddle or shunting yard. Nothing much but 3 tracks, but I can switch out with 5 because the system I have. So it holds about 30 cars, and it's about 4 inches by 5-6 feet. And here's a quick video of first test train going over that. And here, I guess in a lot of these photos and videos, you can see my brother, who I share this layout with, and who helps enjoy this hobby with me. And it's been a lot of fun to just play trains with, and on a day after school or work or whatever. Now we get into part 3, other layouts and stuff. Now, of course, you have to have the little trains around the Christmas tree, whether that be HOOS, whatever scales there are. Yeah, so that's pretty much the first little bits, and then now I have quite a bit of O scale, which I from time to time like to set up. And then for some dioramas, we have just this simple one. It's about 2 feet by 4 feet or whatever. These were my first attempts at trying to model Lehigh Station in Utah on the UTA Frontrunner. And as you can see, the first ones are built out of Lego, and then some foam board, and then right now I'm doing some styrene buildings and getting all that set up, and it's been turning out nice. Over the last 3 years, I've been working on this simple diorama that hasn't gone far, but you can see I'm extended that by a few inches so I could accommodate a road into that diorama and whatnot. Now, continuing with the Legos, I have this small one for some of my N scale trains. It was nothing much, and so I ended up making another one for a school project. Of course, reusing some of that old grass sheets and whatnot, and a bunch of small N scale trees. Came out with a small thing, and then in the background for like 6 or 7 years now, I've had this small diorama that I had just made out of scraps and whatnot for some of my older model trains. Just sits in the background, but yeah, thanks for watching, and make sure to like, share, subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comments.